And we're going to start with the Vice President of the United States, now back in Washington or almost there, after a trip here to Western New York today. She came to talk about the Inflation Reduction Act that passed last month. The tax and spending bill had a lot of stuff in it, including the biggest investment ever to address climate change. And that was the focus today as VP Harris spoke for about 15 minutes at UB's Center for the Arts. She highlighted what she said has been failure for a long time from leaders to address this growing climate crisis, and she challenged current UB students to be the generation that solves it.
Here in Buffalo, you have watched as toxic algae has spread through Lake Erie. Your generation knows the threat of the climate crisis because you have lived it. And for your entire lives thus far, you have seen our nation fail to act with the urgency this crisis demands.
We want to talk more right now and bring in one of the people working on that at the University of Buffalo, Dr. Diana Aga, director of the UB Renew Institute. It's a real pleasure to have you on the show. I know it's been a busy day for everybody at the North Campus there. The VP's visit certainly kind of setting the tone for the fight against the climate crisis. Short on details, it wasn't a super long speech, but what can you tell us about the work that's happening at the Renew Institute on that front and trying to address this crisis?
Yeah, thanks for having me here. We have a lot of faculty actually involved in work that range from clean energy, renewable energy, looking at water treatment, air pollution, and the health implications of air pollution and also the water scarcity. So we have, so part of the Renew Institute is really to bring all this expertise together. So we could solve this complex problem. We have faculty working on materials that can capture carbon dioxide from air so that it could be part of buildings, so resilient buildings. We have faculty members who are looking at how to treat water so that when we have scarcity, when there's drought and there's limited amount of water, we can pretty much recycle what we have. And we also have people who are working on air pollution and its health impacts. And all of this, we always bring our students to be aware of all these issues. And we actually have new NSF-funded project that will bring our students abroad so that they could really see what drought looks like, what water intrusion look like, and so that we can come back in the university and do research in terms of water harvesting and water treatment. So yeah, we have all this faculty expertise at UB.
Yeah, definitely a lot happening there. Dr. Aga, I wonder, one of the things that kind of prompted some questions today, we heard the Vice President specifically reference the algae that's been a concern in the Great Lakes because of farm fertilizer runoff. How does that relate to climate change and what's being done about that?
Yes, so you know, with all this rainfall, heavy rainfalls, sometimes we have unexpected runoff that happens because some of the the wastewater treatment plant cannot hold them anymore with large volume of water coming off, and that also causes runoff from farms. So yes, some of the excess fertilizer may end up in the Lake Erie, or some of the wastewater treatment may not be treated so well and as overflows. So those are related to climate change. And one of the things that are happening here, we have a good, strong architecture department, School of Architecture. There's people working on green infrastructure so that we could create some buffers to prevent some of this untreated waste getting into the lake. We are also improving some of our wastewater treatment plant so that maybe we could divert some of the nitrogen and convert them into fertilizer. I'm actually involved in one of those NSF-funded project where we separate urine from the beginning, from the source, so the urine that contains nitrogen don't need to be treated. You can actually harvest nitrogen and turn it into fertilizer. So there are so many technologies being done now so that we can prevent some of this untreated waste going into the lake and preventing harmful algal blooms.
I want to ask you a bigger picture question as we're now having this kind of conversation today, because when you get such a high profile visit, it puts a big spotlight on the topic, and that, of course, right now being climate change. For people who are watching right now who wonder, how can I as an individual really do something that has an impact on something as big as our climate and as big as the world? How do you respond to those people and anyone out there who is skeptical about all this?
Well, I always talk to some of the young students, and in terms of really educating them about little things they can do, like try not to drive so many miles if you can bike, and then educate their parents, because I know that there are some generation that are skeptical about the human impacts on climate. And we have a lot of classes actually in general education classes here at UB who talk about climate change so that it's easily related to the common people. We have some scientists that go to study climate science and bring students actually from the undergraduate level to study ice melt and model them. So by communicating some of these things that we learn in the university to our parents, to the young kids, to the young generation, I think we can slowly educate our people, and really so that people really believe that there is climate change, and we humans contribute to this climate change.
Well, it certainly says something about you and the many colleagues that you have at UB, that of all the places in the country where the Vice President could have gone to deliver this message, they chose to come right here to Western New York. So congratulations on that. Diana Aga is director of the UB Renew Institute. Thanks for coming on this evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you for asking me.